Anything else I can help you with?
Can you tell me your name and badge number?
Anthony Freeble. Oh, I can give you my card. Actually, I think I threw my card in there as well.
Okay.
This is Susan Bassey. In 2019, we were covering a taxpayer waste lawsuit brought by attorney Pat Evans, who was suing the Commission on Judicial Performance for not telling the public how many judges are involved in crime. That same day, we had not done a media request because I was with a bunch of crusty old newspapermen who didn't always think about photographing and recording court hearings, which you have to ask to do in advance. But when I walked out into the courthouse, I happened to meet some First Amendment auditors and cop watchers, and from that day forward, we've been asking judges to record in courthouses and why they allow us to. And one judge, Judge Brown in Sacramento, told us he allowed the cop watchers to record that courthouse because it was so beautiful and the public had paid to build it and the public should be able to enjoy it.
The CJP in a taxpayer lawsuit, and I'm with
San Joaquin Valley Transparency,
Multi-Levy Accountability Inspector,
and to film.
Tulare County Cop Watch.
And ever since that day, we've been mindful of what the attorneys have taught us about taxpayer waste, what the cop watchers and First Amendment auditors have taught us about public spaces, public officials, and our right to record, and also what investigative reporters and editors have taught us about reporting on people when it comes to our courts, our police, and our public officials, especially when it comes to how they treat the public who comes to them for help or to seek redress of their grievances.
For domestic violence survivors, and I'm trying to find that information.
Okay. Hold on one minute for you.
Okay, thank you.
The First Amendment assures that the public and the free press have a right to ask for information from the government, and the free press is trained to watchdog to make sure that that information is provided fairly and accurately. And sometimes the free press has to work a little harder to make sure that's being done.
Good. How are you?
Good. Are you together?
Yeah.
I'm just shadowing her.
Gotcha.
Yes. And this is Cubby.
Shadowing is like riding along with somebody and watching how the government treats them. We do it in police departments. We also do it with public meetings and spaces, and we do it in court, because how the government responds and the information that they give has to be watched in order to make sure that it is fair.
Okay.
And then obviously any situation where we might come across in Los Altos where we have a domestic violence victim, we also provide our business card, which gives access, basically reference to Marcy's Law and Victims' Bill of Rights on the back as well.
California, like most states, has crime victim rights. It allows you to have an advocate go with you to court to reduce the traumatic process of going through the legal system. You're also afforded the right to notice, meaning you have a right to have the prosecutor tell you when a case might be going through the criminal courts and how it might affect you. And you have a right to financial compensation if you've lost wages because of the crime, or you might need therapy or other services. California spends $50 million a year trying to provide services and restitution to crime victims. But we find too often they're not complying with the law, and we also found that a charity seemed to be siphoning off the crime victims and diverting them from those funds and putting them into the hands of private divorce attorneys who were moving their cases into private judging. And the nonprofit was known as WomenSV, and we've been reporting on it for over a year.
Anthony Freeble, badge number 372.
Anthony,
Yes.
I just want to tell you, I was here a year ago to gather information about what victims were being told, and you did a great job today. So I'm watching how people are being treated. Really appreciate it. I am troubled by the fact that this is public facing, given what I have investigated about this organization and the public and private funds that it's received. So that's what I'm reporting on, and I just want you to know that you did a great job, because a year ago I was here and Officer Brian Jeffrey was not so kind, very rude, and he has been on my YouTube channel in not a favorable way.
Did I say that was harassing?
You said
I said you were.
I'm harassing. So
Yeah.
why is that? Because you didn't like how
I'm
I
not
framed
gonna
my
answer your
questions? Oh, you're not going to answer my
Anything
questions?
else I can answer for today?
Yes.
I don't
How
have
do you?
an answer.
I just want to point out to you. Do you have post training on domestic violence and the protocols?
I'm not going to answer that.
And that encounter with Officer Jeffrey occurred a couple of weeks after we started reporting on the nonprofit WomenSV, who said they were using taxpayer funds to train police officers in Santa Clara County, Los Altos, and Orange County.
The victim, it was
Survivor.
survivor.
That's
yes.
right. That's
To
right.
be a survivor,
You know
this
what?
is helpful.
That's really good that you do that, because the language and the words that we use are very important. And the fact that you knew to use that language is commendable. So I don't know if that's in post training or not, but
I believe it is, yeah.
anyway,
I just want to point out to you, do you have post training on domestic violence and the protocols?
I'm not going to answer that.
it would be a problem. We also were just at the city asking for public records. And it is actually a crime to delay, conceal, obstruct public records. And I'm going to be filing a complaint against the city. And I'd like to have it investigated, because they're not allowed to do what they were doing. And they didn't even so much as give us this kind of information, and it's here in the police department. So I appreciate it very much. I thank you for speaking to us, and thank you for being a good police officer.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Drive safe.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Shortly before we went to the police department, we went to the city hall and we demanded access to inspect records related to how much WomenSV had been paid since 2016, the first time we knew a payment had existed. But the shady little contract attorney that works with the city had advised the city manager and the court clerk not to give us access to the records and instead treat our request as a production, requiring us to wait 10 days. Which is not what the law says about access to public records. And so we live streamed our first effort, knowing that we might have problems from the city staff and the city manager based on the legal advice that the city was overpaying for.
A reporter who is not a reporter for the local newspaper that you give awards to and that you give accolades to and funding to and that funds your politicians is asking for financial information of the taxpayers of this city.
That will all be available to you.
I was very specific. There are two parts to the Public Records Act. No.
You may contact the city
No.
attorney
There
for
are
further
two
information.
parts to the Public Records Act. One, I wait 10 days, which I've already asked for those records, which were more burdensome. And the other one is that I get to walk into a public agency during business hours and ask for records.
So again,
Government
if
Code
you have
7922.525.
questions with the city attorney,
You're the city manager.
You're welcome to contact the city attorney.
You're the city manager. Have you concealed all public
This
records?
is under her purview. So if there's.
No, you're the
if
city
there's-
manager.
All right, thank you. Have a good day, Ms. Desi.
You're the city manager and you're responsible for public records, and I'm asking for access to them.
We learned from the cop watchers to live stream whenever we feel like we're in trouble. So we live streamed our first effort to get public records related to how much this nonprofit had been paid by taxpayers. And when the city attorney actually advised the city staff and manager to break the law and not give us access to the records, we went back to show that the records existed and that they had not made a diligent search. That we learned from our associates at investigative reporters and editors.
Oh, look, they have video surveillance on the premises.
You can see it, it's right up there.
And when we went back, we recorded everything because we wanted to document what it looked like when a city clerk making $170,000 a year in pay and benefits obstructed the public right to access public records.
Talk to the city manager, not you, but we just went to the police department, had a very nice experience with Officer Fireball.
I was like, that doesn't sound familiar.
Well, what is his name? But we also got all these pamphlets from WomenSV and all the other things that they're handing out. So when the city tells us there's no public records, that is a record that is being placed in the public police department. And it is full of misinformation, and I want to talk to the city
I
manager.
believe he has gone at a lunch appointment, but I can go check.
Okay.
I heard his door, so I'm assuming that means he left. But let me go double check to see
Okay.
if he is here.
Thank you.
And then I'll be right back. I'll let
Okay,
you know.
thank you.
No problem.
Left to its own, the government will always behave badly, and that's why individuals who work for the government have to do better when it comes to public trust.
Answer at his door, so I believe that he is gone at the moment. So
Okay, so Melissa, I'm sorry to put you on the spot on this.
it's
But we walked in to see what a domestic violence survivor would experience in the police department. Our experience was very different from a year ago with Officer Jeffrey when I did the same thing.
How do you, I just want to point out to you, do you have post training on domestic violence and the protocols?
I'm not going to answer that.
But it was deeply troubling, given what the city now knows about WomenSV, that out of all the public information they had in their lobby and were handing out, that there was this quantity of promotion to WomenSV. So let me explain why. First, it's only in English. This community has a diverse cultural base, and making materials only available in English is problematic.
It's especially problematic when Melissa gets a letter from an attorney threatening to sue the city, costing taxpayers money in litigation for engaging in policies and procedures that are discriminatory in nature.
This is the state crime victims. If you're a victim of a crime and you want to apply for income replacement or therapy, and this is in English and in Spanish. There were other things in Chinese and Japanese, but we only found this in English. The other thing is, this is startlingly false, what they're handing out. So the city is enabling them to hand out information to people who may not want to speak to a police officer, but would go in and would get this information.
Information being used to dupe donors and taxpayers to give this nonprofit more money, as they were referring divorce attorneys to their clients, vulnerable clients who were then moved into private judging in a case rigging scheme that was protected by and known by the district attorney.
So we're going to file formal compliments on the police officer. He did a great job. His language, his training, he did a fabulous job, and I love catching people doing a good job.
And the public was told that Ruth Patrick was doing a good job with survivors of abuse. She was the apple of the city's eye. She collected $2.2 million in private and public funds, and she was given access to some of the wealthiest people in Los Altos, including the district attorney. But Ruth Patrick went by several names: Ruth Darling Patrick, Ruth Patrick Darling, Ruth Patrick, and she just used the same words over and over again. And she seemed to have some protection from the district attorney that others didn't seem to have.
They're not receiving any special, the walls being painted, but they're not receiving any financial benefit.
And a week before the city manager and the city clerk decided to take the unlawful advice from the city attorney about not giving us public records, we attended this meeting where we met them. And this was the mayor and the city council discussing our work on WomenSV and the information that they have and that they don't.
It's unfortunate that we don't have the grantee, the prospective grantee here to defend the application and defend the organization.
This is the vice mayor of Los Altos, and this is the first time he has commented on our reporting and the fact that the founder of WomenSV wasn't at a public meeting trying to defend her application for more money from taxpayers.
The concerns that have been communicated by some of the residents are not new. They surfaced last year as well.
What he means by surfaced last year as well is that we began reporting on what was going on, and we began reporting in a manner that just enough people started listening, and that always gets everyone's attention in politics and when money might be involved, especially up here in Los Gatos and Los Altos.
I took it upon myself to meet with the founder of the organization and several board members and a couple of people that have been helped by the organization.
And this is the first time the vice mayor revealed that he conducted an investigation of the nonprofit founders and people he viewed had been helped by the organization.
I think that the city should support WomenSV, albeit at a reduced amount.
Do you have a number in mind?
You know, I'm probably in the $5,000 sort of range.
For 1 year or 2 years?
That would be per year.
And just like that, that's how public officials spend your money, $10,000 with all the controversy surrounding, never mentioning that he was the treasurer for the mayor's campaign and that he is also besties with one of the Los Altos Crier newspaper publishers who happens to sit on the WomenSV board that they were investigating.
The Los Altos Town Crier has always had publishers sitting on the board of WomenSV, and at the same time, they have been funding WomenSV. Their publishers are also CPAs who are doing the tax returns for WomenSV, which is a nonprofit.
Doubling down on the cronyism involving WomenSV and Los Altos City Council is Councilmember Sally Meadows.
Don't appreciate is having members of our community who are good people and who are trying to help domestic violence survivors getting defamed and slammed publicly for them trying to do good.
And government translation once again, this is an elected politician, Sally Meadows, deciding who are the do-gooders, who are the insiders, and who are the cronies in a city, and who are the outsiders. And she's deciding what the facts are from a city that is not even producing public records according to the law.
I asked for a more robust presentation the next time she asked for money from us. We did not get that. What we got was the same wording that is in everything. And in fact, you can look at the documentation and match it up to her 990 form. But this sort of smear campaign isn't helpful. I'm trying to evaluate this on its merits. She didn't provide us the depth of impact in our community.
And Miss Meadows, just like her counterpart on the Vice Mayor, Pete Dailey, didn't do an investigation until our reporting. And we want to know what they were investigating since we can't even get public records about how much the nonprofit has been paid.
Words verbatim as to who she serves and the numbers, we're not getting any documentation of her impact in our community. So I cannot support it. For that reason, the smear would make me want to support it.
Let's translate that government speak. Sally Meadows never investigated or questioned WomenSV as she spent years throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at a nonprofit she didn't even know what they were doing. And when we started to report on it, she labeled it a smear campaign, tainted journalism, so to speak, and she said that she was willing to fund a nonprofit based on that reporting.
That asking for public records is sometimes burdensome and, PIOs and...
The public's right to access, it's fine.
And there it is. Melissa knows the law about the public right to access public records. She just doesn't want to comply with it because her supervisor, who she said was out of the office and was sitting down in his office doing this, didn't want to follow the law.
Hi, good morning.
Hi. So after repeatedly denying us access to public records and telling us everybody was out to lunch, in came lunch. And that city manager, who was supposedly not in his office because the door was closed, this is where he was.
Come here. Quick.
The timeline, the city attorney.
So you got no other records?
Have a good day, Miss Bessie.